The story begins with a brief flashback from 2 years ago. A middle-aged woman called Nagare Mari is in the kitchen playing with the character bento she made. She flinched as her son opened the door suddenly, greeting her good morning. Flustered, she dropped the seaweed on the floor, and her son apologized, exclaiming he didn't mean to startle her like that. This young boy is Nagare Kiritaka, and he is currently a second-year student in middle school. He looked at his mom embarrassedly and assured her that she didn't have to do this much every morning. His mom asks him whether he wouldn't be picked on if his bento was too bland. But Kiritaka tells her the bento she makes are the tastiest in the world, so she should be more confident. This compliment immediately puts a sunny smile on her face. Kiritaka then proceeds to take his breakfast while his mom wraps his lunch for him. The scene shifts to a building in St. Spring Middle School, where Kiritaka receives a brutal kick to his stomach as his hands are tied behind a pole. On his stomach was plastered a kid's bullseye board with the number 100 pierced. Removing the pin from under his shoe, a boy exclaims, "Bullseye, I win." It turns out that Kiritaka and this bully are not the only people in the building. A plump kid asks one of the boys when he can have some sweets again, with Kiritaka's aggressor telling them he would treat them later. Let's put some names to these characters. The fat boy is called Ajiki Muta, the girl is called Shikimi Kumiru, Kiritaka's aggressor is Kinugawa Tsuyoshi, and the boy taking pictures of Kiritaka is Kawase Tsubasa. Now let's move on. On the ground, Kiritaka wets himself and his pee flows towards Kinugawa's shoe. Seeing this, Kinugawa angrily stomps on Kiritaka's face, subjecting him to more pain. While stomping on him, Kinugawa yells and asks, "How much do you think these cost?" As Shikimi records this beating, Ajiki says to her, "Kinugawa gets mad easily, doesn't he?" Then out of nowhere, all of a sudden a new boy puts his hand on Kinugawa's shoulder and says, "Didn't I tell you not the face?" With a look of shock mixed with fear, Kinugawa stuttered, "Oh, Okaya?" Pressing harder on Kinugawa's shoulder, Okaya said, "I sure did, didn't I?" "My bad. I lost my cool there," he says. I see, Okaya says, "but you know, the next time you pull a stunt like this, we won't be friends anymore. Okay?" he continued. "Understood," he replied. As Shikimi slides the door closed, Okaya takes a look at Kiritaka's bento on the floor and kicks it towards him. He steps on it and says, "They say character bentos are sticky and feel dirty, so it is best to get rid of them like this." After a while, he brought the bento towards Kiritaka's face, which at this point contained some cockroaches. Smiling menacingly, he said, "See? It already attracted cockroaches." Okaya proceeds to drop some lore about cockroaches' eggs towards Kiritaka and tells him, "You can be the mama of these cockroaches." "No," Kiritaka shouts. As Okaya brings the cockroach-infested bento close to his mouth, he shouts, "Save me," while Okaya pries his mouth open, shoving the disgusting food down his throat. Time passes, and the bullies vacate the building, leaving poor Kiritaka alone coughing and trying to puke. He picks the bento chicken his mom made and eats it with tears flowing down his cheeks. This group of bullies stroll down the hall happily when Kawase says to Okaya, "Nagare is almost tamed." Shikimi also adds, "You're going to use him for the next 5 years, right?" "I'm glad that our middle school and high school are integrated," she says. Damn, seeing such an innocent-looking girl partaking in bullying almost breaks my heart. Well, let's continue. Even if you leave Kiritaka alone, he is not going to become your enemy, so why do you go out your way to crush him? She asks. With a solemn look on Okaya's face, we get another flashback. In a random room, a boy kneels on a toilet lid with Kinugawa holding a makeshift noose around the poor boy's neck while they bet on how long he would survive the hanging. Kinugawa threatens the boy, saying, "I'm going to end you if you don't last above 10 seconds. The poor boy looks horrified thinking about what's going to happen to him. "Don't make that face," Okaya says. "We're just playing, right?" The boy looked downwards, his face full of fear. Okaya gives the signal, and Kinugawa kicks the toilet, causing the boy to hang in the air. I give up, the boy says, yelling and crying in pain. "Try harder," Kinugawa retorted. "Do you know how much effort we put into prepping this?" He asks. All of a sudden, "Stop," A young Kiritaka shouts as he runs toward the hanging boy to provide support to his legs, surprising Okaya and his gang. "Stay out of this," Kinugawa exclaims as he kicks Kiritaka in the stomach. "The game is ruined," Shikimi annoyingly added. Looking at Kiritaka coughing from the pain, Okaya asks, "Do you want to take his place?" Looking at this panel, I love how the mangaka shows the level of intimidation Okaya's glare instills in Kiritaka. The flashback ends and Okaya replies, "I didn't like the look in his eyes, I guess." Fast forward and Kiritaka arrives home. Before opening the door, he calms himself and with a happy face, busts the door open, shouting, "I'm home." Immediately, with a burst of confetti, his mom wished him a happy 14th birthday. Seeing the wound on his face, his mom questions him about it, to which he answered, "I tripped at school." She promptly invites him to sit so she treats his wound to avoid infection. Kiritaka tries to avoid the treatment, but his mom did not allow him to do so. While treating him, she tells him she wanted to be a school nurse. Twitching from the pain, Kiritaka asks, "Why?" Coincidentally, his mom too used to be bullied in school, but unlike Kiritaka, she had no family to rely on since she was an orphan. Damn, that's sad. Anyways, her only saving grace was the school nurse who gave her a place to belong. "This is why I have the qualifications to be a nursing teacher," she says. Kiritaka then asks, "If that is so, why did you give up such a dream?" She responds, "It is because I received a family member I wanted to protect, no matter what." Looking at his mother's loving face, Kiritaka thought to himself, "Me too." In his mind, he wants to protect his mother's smile. Later in the evening, Mrs. Mari makes a phone call with her husband telling him that Kiritaka is hiding something. His father attributes this behavior to his son, wanting his privacy since he's now in middle school. Hearing this, she replies, "I think there's something wrong. I feel he's forcing himself to be a good kid." "Aren't you being too overprotective of the boy?" Mr. Nagare, or should I say Inspector Nagare, asks. His partner tells him the target is moving, so he hangs up the call seconds later. Kiritaka is now in bed, fiddling with his phone. In his thought, he is certain his mom will storm into the school if she finds out about his bullying. While playing a game, he receives a video file from Kawase. His curiosity gets the better of him. In the video, he sees his mom in what seems to be a compromising situation with a man, whom I believe is not his father. Listening to the voice of the woman in the video, he is relieved that the video is fake. A few seconds later, a message from Kawase telling him to come to the observatory. Contemplating about his actions, he decides to go, for fear that his bullies may do something with the video. Kiritaka gently opens the door to his mom's room, checking to make sure she was asleep. Luckily, his mom was feigning sleep and became curious about Kiritaka's actions. After a while, Kiritaka arrives at the meeting place, and look, all his bullies are here, including the little girl. It doesn't take long for the bullies to start making several inappropriate comments about his mom. Surprisingly, Kiritaka becomes bold and yells for them to shut up. Despite this, they continue to laugh at him. Okaya walks towards him and asks, "When are you going to know your place?" As if conditioned, Kiritaka immediately kneels down. Okaya then tells him to spread the video of his mom himself. His response was unsurprisingly, no. Okaya proceeds to make a deal with him. "If you jump off this cliff, I'll delete the video for you," he says. Even reading this, I wonder, how can someone be this twisted in the mind? Judging from the height of the cliff, Okaya tells Kiritaka he wouldn't die. He will just have a few broken bones. With devilish smiles on their faces, they make a path for Kiritaka, telling him to jump. Okaya tells him to leave his shoes behind, assuring him he wants to go down the mountain with him later. Leaning close to his ears, he tells him, "If you don't jump in 3 seconds, I will upload the video." The countdown starts. 3, 2, 1. Kiritaka, leaving his shoes behind, sadly runs towards the edge of the cliff, about to do the unthinkable. Looking at the tracking up on her phone, Mrs. Mari is wondering what her son was doing at the mountains this time of the year. With a horrid look, she sees her son on the road, his legs crushed and lying in a pool of his blood. She cries out to her son as if to warn him about something. Kiritaka lies there with tears in his face, struggling to even call out to his mom. With heavy panting, Mrs. Mari rushes towards her beloved son, but she doesn't make it in time. Out of nowhere, Truck-kun unleashed his godly fury and ran over the poor boy. Mrs. Mari continued her dash towards her son, saying, "No, no." To make things worse, she slipped and fell onto the road. Upon reaching her son, the boy she knew was no more. With his entrails in her hands, she yelled, "No! Come back!" The bullies, no, the spawns of Satan, watching all of this go down, started to panic. Kawase shakingly said, "He died. What should we do?" Shikimi replied, "No way. I don't want to be arrested for a guy like him." "We have to run," Kinugawa says. "Okaya?" To the complete shamelessness of this character, Okaya answered, "I let him win and escape." During this night, the quiet sound of the falling snow was eclipsed by the wails of a heartbroken mother. Mrs. Mari is now in her bed, holding what seems to be something like a carton. I am not sure, but I am going to guess the contents could possibly be the remains of her son. I could be wrong, though. Mr. Nagare quietly approaches her doorstep, telling her they found a suicide note and Kiritaka's shoes near the observatory. No way are the bullies going to pass off this incident as a suicide. Before Mr. Nagare was about to tell his wife it was a suicide, she cuts him off, saying, "We were the ones who killed him." He then apologizes to his wife for failing to protect his son. After he gives her some space, Mrs. Mari, still sobbing, asks herself why she didn't realize it sooner. Sometime later, evidence of a suicide note containing Kiritaka's handwriting were taken. Also, a drive recorder somehow showed that he died by suicide. Upon checking his tweets, they also found other disturbing posts. Some people on the internet are even blaming his parents for failing in their duties. Time passes by a little, and Mrs. Mira is preparing some food. She mistakenly cuts her finger, spilling some blood on the cutting board. That look in her eye tells me it reminds her of her son. She raised the knife high in the sky, about to let her intrusive thoughts win, when suddenly Kiritaka's bag fell down, revealing several books, including his diary. His mom reads some of its contents and finds out about several accounts of bullying her son had to endure. Fortunately, Kiritaka kept all the evidence in the USB pen drive hidden in his drawer. As if on cue, Mrs. Mari opens the content of the pen drive and watches one video of her son being forced to write that he will end himself in a book, as Kinugasa threatened to take the life of a rabbit. That was when she found out that the suicide note was fake. Watching other hideous things the bullies made his son go through, all her son could say was, "They are all demons." To put it correctly, they were all just fanatics, with Okaya Nozomu as the ringleader. From his notes, he has gathered the evidence against the rest, but doesn't have one against Okaya. The last thing in his diary was that he didn't want his mom to worry about him anymore. That said, he wanted revenge, but his mom, with a scary face, says, "Mere revenge is too soft. What they deserve is judgment." I can't wait to see what the mom has planned. But that's it for this video, folks. If you made it this far, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like and tell me what you guys think in the comment section, and let me know if you want me to continue this story. Feel free to also recommend other stories you want me to cover. Till next time.